Now, originally I wasn't going to make a video for Musashi because everybody already knows that she's really good, and I think I got all my general thoughts out in yesterday's video on the Should You Summon, and I was like, I don't need to make another servant review for her, but then I've been playing Samurai Remnant, and I cannot lie, Musashi is very likable in the game, and I was like, you know what, in honor of her just being the absolute GOAT so far as to where I'm at in the story, let's go ahead and give her a video. Plus, this is one of those unique times that I actually have Musashi and I have the supports, because sometimes I either have a good support for the unit but I don't own them, or I have the unit, like say some of the quick servants over on JP and stuff, but I don't actually have Ruler Scotty. So I'm like, I can actually give a really good view on Musashi. Plus, I've used her in more recent difficult content over on JP, and I can say this unit does still hold up. But before we begin, if you have not already, make sure you leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel for that daily FGO content. Also, make sure you hit up that Twitch link that's in the description, as I do go live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday starting at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, usually playing FGO, but I might tinker around with Samurai Remnant, who knows. You'll have to be there to find out. But let's just stop talking about all this intro stuff and move right into her kit, starting off with her hits over here. And Musashi has a very strange kit, because usually you don't see sabers getting the triple buster card treatment. That's usually reserved for berserkers, but what it does allow her to do is do buster brave chains without having her NP, meaning if you're using her with say Koyenskaya or with Merlin, she can do really high-end buster crit turns, and especially with Koyenskaya, it really helps with a refund, because Koyenskaya, remember, allows you to refund on your buster cards. So in the past, Musashi was very reliant on her first skill and finding that arts card, but because Koyenskaya is, well, really good for buster units, she really did help people out like Musashi that have these triple buster decks in being really consistent. Plus, they also give her a buff to her first skill in the future that also just made her really sick nasty. So basically, you get all of the power of a triple buster deck with none of the real drawbacks, right? Usually you would suffer from consistency issues, but now we don't have that. Now, her one arts card is very strong already off rip, with 3 hits and being at 0.87% NP gain. That in and of itself is already a very strong arts card that will refund you a lot of your NP, but if you've ever used Musashi, you know she's got something in the back pocket to make that absolutely insane. Just look at that arts card, look at that extra attack that normally I might flame because it's only got the 4 hits on it, but just keep those in mind as we start moving into her skills, because they're not actually that low. And even saying that low isn't that bad, because it's 3 and 4. Like, those are not bad hit numbers, but considering what Musashi can do, it's a little bit insane. So starting off with her first skill, this is pretty much the whole gimmick behind Musashi, right? She's able to double the number of her hits. And what does that mean? So that 3-hit arts card that we were talking about, while this skill is up, that becomes a 6-hit arts card. And it's not like the NP gain goes down, or even the star gen for her quick card goes down. Like, none of those go down at all. You just get all of the benefits of the hits being doubled, and it's ridiculous, right? Like, if you've ever used Musashi, or even used someone like Ereshkigal, who also has a ridiculously high arts card with really high NP gain, and she can buff that up with her own NP gain stat, you know what servants of this caliber are capable of doing. They can just refund their entire NP. It might as well read arts crit with this and you have a 100% battery. It's ridiculous. They also gave her increased damage with her normal attacks for these turns, basically meaning her face cards do more damage. But where this gets really out of hand is that this was already good enough as is. You were like, okay, you just pop this on the turn when you have her arts card, just refund all your NP and then fire your NP next turn, right? And it's all good. But then for some reason, there was an absolute mad lad who was like, what if we made it even better? And they took the double hits only being for 1 turn and they made it 3 turns. The damage buff from her normal attacks are buffed for 3 turns, and for whatever reason they also tack on 1k damage cut for 3 turns as well. She gets ridiculous when she gets this buff. It's absolutely ludicrous. And it's what I think allows her to stay very competitive over on JP, as I did bring her into Lost Belt 7 for some of those boss fights, and she was able to absolutely cook in there. Now, I believe we should be getting this buff, if you're curious, next year for the Singularity Repair thing, where we had like 9 different banners for each of the singularities. So we should be seeing this next year, I believe, if the JP NA timelines are going to be matching up. We could get it earlier, right? This is one of those like random campaigns that they potentially could throw our way earlier, or they could just give us the skill buff early as well if they just want to be really nice, but it's insane whenever she does get this. Now, the other two skills are also really good on their own as well. The second skill, you can view this as her offensive skill, giving her Pierce Invul for a turn and a massive 50% Buster buff for one turn. And essentially, you just fire this whenever you want to fire her NP, right? Because then you're going to get past all dodges, all invuls. Really, the only thing that can stop you is like really high defense enemies, or if they have some special damage resistance, right? You know how just some bosses would be like, oh, I just take 30% less damage from everything. That little orange ball thing, like that might stomp you in your tracks a little bit. But then that Buster damage, spoiler alert, she also has a damage mod on her NP that is a little bit more niche, but it can multiply into that, as well as the NP damage buff that she also gives herself on her NP, meaning she can do a lot of damage. She can hit really, really hard, especially if you are fighting like Lancers or Berserkers, but you also wanted to be having this really high base damage because her niche is against people that she's not necessarily super effective against. Now, in the future, I would like to see this get buffed. I would like that Pierce Invul to be maybe like 3 turns, and if we're lucky, the Buster buff can be for 3 turns as well. I know that sounds insane, but considering how good someone like, say, Gilgamesh is or Artoria is, because of just how popular they are, I think we could see the same thing for Musashi, especially because we have Samurai Remnant. Her popularity is only going to skyrocket. So, you know what, just slap a 3 turns on both of those, and if you're an absolute insane person, drop a 30 to 50% battery on it as well. I know a lot of people have been asking for Musashi to have that. If she does get that, she'll be a little nuts, because then she'll have a niche in the 90 plus and the 90 plus plus nodes where you have those like really large enemies that might appear in the middle of a wave or something, because then she'll just be able to chuck those guys as well. So I don't know, throw that her way and she'll be all good. But as it is right now, it makes her a little bit more of a burst damage dealer, but they did buff her NP so that even when you don't have this skill, she's still doing some pretty decent damage. Then finally, there's her third skill, which gives her invincibility for 1 turn. Gives her 30% star gen for 3 turns as well, which you're really not going to use, but if you really do want to pair it with something, pair it with the first skill whenever you see the quick card, and you might drop a few stars here and there. But then also notably, it does remove all of her own debuffs. So just treat this as a survivability skill. Don't really use it for the star gen. Use it whenever you need to tank an incoming NP, or if you just need to live that 1 extra turn to finish out the fight. Sometimes those fights get really, really tight, and you really just need that last turn, pop it for that. Or if you're getting like a lot of attack and, you know, NP damage downs, which has happened to me, I'll actually use it for the debuff cleanse, because the main thing about Musashi, she does a lot of really big damage, and if they're hitting you with a lot of those debuffs, you got to get rid of those, because if she's not doing damage, she's not doing her job, right? So you got to make sure that she's getting those nice clean hits in. Overall, very solid kit. I would like to see a little bit of a buff to the second skill, but I mean, they gave her a ludicrous first skill buff, and her NP is very, very strong, so that's me being a little bit selfish, but I do think we'll probably see something on that second skill in the future. And hey, if Ilya can get a 50% battery, trust me, my girl Musashi over here can also at least get a 30% battery, if not a 50%. Now, her NP is absolutely insane. For one, it's a buffed NP, so the damage scaling is higher than normal. She also gives herself free 30 to 90% NP damage, depending on her overcharge level. So if you want to play around in certain weird team comps with, like, say, Himiko or Morgan, these guys that can give you those overcharge, or you just want to use Demonic Bodhisattva to get that free double charge, you could just have like 60% NP damage, which is ludicrous, and then it just skyrockets her damage to the moon. Also, if you happen to have numerous copies of Musashi with that first skill, she can easily get up to like 200% NP. It's not that hard for her to do. And so you could start seeing her do some ludicrous damage. She also removes their buffs after attacking. Unfortunate, it's not like Amakusa, who is able to remove the buffs before he does damage. But again, it's very nice. If you're using Musashi and another DPS, you could always put her in front, have her remove all their buffs, and have your other guy, your actual main DPS, which for whatever reason is not Musashi. I don't know why you'd be doing that, but if you are, you gotta have them get a nice clean attack, and after she removes everything. It's just a nice thing she's able to do. Or let's say you're not even using it to get around their defenses. It is nice if you have an enemy like, I was going to say the Nerofest Gilgamesh, who stacks a lot of attack, but you actually don't want to remove his attack because then he gets a whole bunch of different buffs. But something like that, right, where the boss is giving themselves a lot of like crit damage or attack buffs and stuff along those lines, and you want to go ahead and remove that so they're not just absolutely whamming your party with all their attacks. But the nice thing that Musashi got was mainly the free damage mod against Alter Ego and Moon Cancer enemies. Now, that's not a whole lot of people. That's pretty restrictive, but the reason it's nice is that if you're somebody with a more limited box, let's say you don't have any really good rulers, you can kind of use Musashi as a quote-unquote ruler to take out moon cancers for you, right? She's able to fulfill that niche of some of these other extra class servants that you may not have, or even if you do have them, maybe you have like Summer Martha, who I would say is at best a usable servant. I don't really think she's that insane, and so instead you can use someone like Musashi in her place to take out some moon cancers. I don't know if BB ever rolls around or something along those lines. You can bring her for that, and I think that's really nice. Now, would she have been way better if they gave her like a more generic power mod, like, you know, special damage mod against good people or against Earth or Man or something like that? Yeah, obviously those would be a lot better, because you get way more applicability on them, but I do like that it kind of has a little bit of a lore tie-in, and it's very nice because it helps out people who have more limited boxes, and maybe you don't have those insane extra class servants to take out, well, the other insane extra class servants, right? And so overall, I like this unit a lot. I have always been using her as like a friendless like bring to different missions and everything, because I never had my own. Now that I have my own, I've been very impressed with her performance. I like using her a lot. And now that I'm giving these servants different letter grades, I don't think you could give her anything lower than an A. I would say that I would personally give her an A+. I don't think she quite cracks into that like EX tier. She's missing just like one little thing, one little broken extra thing to just tack on there, or maybe just a slight adjustment to the second skill to kind of be up there with the other insane people, but she is very, very strong. Keep in mind, an A to like an A+, that's like getting like a 92 to like a 99 on a test. Like, that's still really good. You definitely did not fail, and you're doing something right. I just want to see a little bit more in there. And I was hoping we would get something because of Samurai Remnant's release, but we didn't get anything. But I'm holding out hope for, say, a collaboration event during next year. Maybe that's what we'll get to see. You know, if they do some DLC for Samurai Remnant, they drop it at the beginning of next year, then boom, FGO also does a collaboration with that. I think that'd be a sick time to go ahead and drop that. Or for New Year's, when they do a lot of different servant buffs, you could also drop something for her then. Or anniversary. I don't care. Just give her something. I just want to see one more little thing for her. And I think then I could definitively call her like a stupid, dummy, broken servant. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And I will not take any more of your time. I will go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day. Peace, late guys.